Well, presently, I'm in the parish of St. Patrick in Grenada, in Sotez, St. Patrick, Grenada. I found a cool spot because the sun is stingingly hot, but I'm getting a little sea breeze, so I'm not feeling that hot presently. So I'm in the shade here, and I am looking at what is an area that they told us that we had to be so careful about what they tell us. You know the story they told us? The people, they're called Caribs, but the Caribs never called themselves Caribs. They were Kalinago and the Galibi, the right terms. So yes, you see the geological features actually, and that which will pull the attention of geologists. You look at the rock formation, and what they told us, that the Kalinago jumped over and killed themselves when pursued by the French. They were allowed to settle the first town in Grenada, and soon they started to kill the Kalinago. So they told us that rather than surrender, they jumped over this. You're right. As if they were not warriors, as if they were not fighters, as if they did not know about resistance. So yes, we have to be careful about the history that they wrote. Oh, how I wish I was able to speak to a Kalinago warrior who saw it all, who has the story from his angle and not from what they told us in the history books. And the Grenadians who are certain that they can point out the spot where the conflict between the Kalinago and the French took place. They can point the exact spot. A friend of mine, Mr. Winston George, took me around St. Patrick a couple of years ago, and he is one that you can talk to regarding that, where the conflict occurred. So I'm looking at this area here, and St. Patrick indeed is a historic town, a historic parish, I should say. Sotez, a historic town, the parish and the town. Now, looking out there at the islands, it is pretty clear today, a clear day. The sun is shining brightly, and they tell us, some people, that on a very clear day you'll be able to even see Caracal, Diamond Rock, Aileron. Some people say Aileron. You know, we pronounce words any way we want to. So just giving you a little picture here of the scenery looking out to sea. Now, many people refer to this area as the breakwater area, because when the huge waves come in, the waves could crash into areas over in the Lotong area and threaten houses and threaten property. So this breakwater was placed here as a barrier to the huge waves. I don't know how effective that will be if a storm surge is let loose by a powerful hurricane as Melissa that is terrorizing Jamaica presently. We can put up all the struggle and the barriers, the barricades to try to curb Mother Nature when Mother Nature gets angry, but many times Mother Nature will win the battle. I often refer to rocks that was once placed, I think it's the La Sousse area, and the waves came in, took the rocks and fell them right back on the land, as if to say, man, take your rocks, take your rocks. So let me try to give you a clear picture of what I am seeing before me, and in a short while I'll tell you a little story. A story that I would like my good friend here to hear. He has a biblical name. His name is Enoch. Enoch, right? Say hello. Say hello to the people, right? Yeah, all right, good. I'll tell you a story, so listen carefully. His father, I taught at the St. John's Christian Secondary School, Reuben, and he, like others, also very good. When I come to Grenada, they take me around. They take the time out to take me around, to show me places in the island. It's wonderful to have good friends, good Grenadian friends, and friends from different islands. So if you're rough, the seas can be here, or is at the moment. You don't want to be caught in a riptide here. It will happen. Well, crap will smoke your pipe. Let me take those birds over there. See those birds? They're taking a 5 on the rock. I think there's a rock called Bird Island. Probably that's Bird Island. The birds are just relaxing. And we as human beings should sometimes take the example of the birds, a time out just to chill, to relax. Breathe in God's wonderful air like I'm doing presently. So now the story, Enoch, I'll tell you the story. You see that area down there? You see that area down there? It's called Low Tongue. Low Tongue, yes. And years ago, I'll tell you what happened. But to do so, I'll take a seat on this stone. Oh, let me take a seat, rest those legs, and look at the area that was called Low Tongue. So years ago, I remember it well. We pushed out from the mooring that morning in our little boat. It was a small boat, and my girlfriend then and her family, they were going to one of the islands up there. I don't believe I can actually see it now, but that island was called, or is called, Latan. As I mentioned, there are many little islands off the coast of Grenada. Some in the southern part, many of the northern coast. And we have the Grenadines also. Well, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, many islands that are under the domain of St. Vincent. But in Grenada we have, for instance, Sugarloaf, Lover Island, Marquis, some will say Marquis Rock, over by the St. Andrew side. What about Calavini Island, Hog Island, Isle Around, Isle Aroon, some people say. Two Sisters, Little Rocks, London Bridge, Green Island, Sandy Island. Yes, islands out there. Again, I would mention that it is one thing to stay in New York or probably other places, yes, and visualize, let your imagination roam and write stories about Grenada. But when you are here, the effect is greater because you actually see what you are talking about. Back to the waves. So we had pushed out from the mooring there. I remember it as yesterday. And we went out into the sea. Into the sea, we were out there. I wrote a poem and a piece also titled, I slept next to Kikem Jenny, and grown man that I am today, that will only be a fleeting thought. But I slept close to Kikem Jenny because that island that we stayed on was not far from the subterranean volcano. Some people call it a submarine volcano. Kikem Jenny, out there. And my prayer is that Kikem Jenny will always sleep in peace. Sleep in peace. And not show us its might at any time. So when we went out there, we were plunged into deep pits of water, walls of water. For me, it was a frightening experience. But there was a gentleman on board, passed away some time ago. His name was, well, as Grenadians like to do, they gave him a nickname. The nickname was Boss. So while I was in the boat there trembling, Boss was telling me, pass the bloggers, pass the bloggers. You see, we had blogo, had fig and saltfish sauce on the boat. And Boss was telling me to pass the bloggers. The waves didn't bother him at all, no. Pass the bloggers. Oh yes, I remember that so clear. And yes, I remember the time I stood on an elevated section near McDonald College and I looked out to sea and everything out there was so nice and calm. It looked so tempting. You just wanted to be in a boat, even a little boat, and go out there and enjoy what seemed to be calm waters. But when we were out there and those huge waves, we were going down and coming up and going down and coming up, and I was trembling like a leaf. But God is good. We survived. And I wrote a little poem, which I promised my little friend here, Enoch. I'll tell you the poem. You look at the water, right? You don't want to go near that, right? Because it can be very rough. It can be very rough. It is very rough. And it can be more rough than it is presently. You see it? You see the water? You see how it is? The waves? Alright, so I'll tell you a little poem to capture an event actually that happened years ago. Now that is why Sauterres means so much to me, because I have had experiences that stuck in my mind. over the years, and still fresh as the evening breeze.